Right now on the National Weather Desk, powerful nor'easter. We've got team coverage as the region is battered by heavy snow, pounding rain, and strong winds.
Where this snow is sticking to it, and it's likely going to lead to a lot of power outages.
Plus a lesson in how nor'easters form.
Did you know that there are different types of nor'easters?
California crisis. Another atmospheric river targets the state, even as people are still recovering from the weekend flooding.
You can see the water is all the way to it's full of water, all the basement.
Yuletide. How Maine is using recycled Christmas trees to help beach dunes.
The wind blows sand over them. It catches the sand.
And the amazing astrophotography of an Instagram photographer.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And a very good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. This morning, a powerful nor'easter is blasting the northeast coast with heavy snow, winds, and flooding, and the storm won't let up until tomorrow morning. Storm chaser Brett Adair was in Massachusetts last night, where snow was already falling in Worcester, 40 miles just west of Boston. Now, plows were out on the roads while state police worked with drivers of disabled cars along the highway. And while northwestern New Jersey will likely see snow, there's also a significant coastal flooding threat. Crews are already making sure sewers are cleared of all debris. The storm could also erode some of the beaches along the famed Jersey Shore. Now let's get out to our team covering the nor'easter today, and we'll start in Portland and Providence in a moment. But first, let's check in with the forecast and how this all comes together. And I want to show you here with that low pressure center, this is a storm that actually was down to the south yesterday, intensifying off the coast. Similar like to a hurricane that gets its properties with that intensification over open waters. It's going to bring in a lot of snow with it, particularly in some of the higher elevations. The big cities right along the eastern coastline, they are not going to be as impacted along the 95 corridor. How much snow? We're talking 4 to 6 inches of snow from Troy to Boston to Portland. But look at Lake Placid, nearly a foot of snow. So snow all the way up into Halifax, and the winds, that'll be a factor as well. We're talking gusts 40 to 50. Look at that, 45-mile-an-hour gust in Portland, near 50-mile-an-hour gust up in Bangor. So we're going to talk about some big-time winds, heavy snows, and some whiteout conditions are a good likelihood. Now let's get out to the team covering the nor'easter across the region. We'll go to Portland and Providence in a moment, but first, let's start off in Albany, New York.
I'm Craig Adams in western Schenectady County, New York, which is about 45 minutes west of the state capital in Albany. And check out the snow here. It's coming down at a rate of about an inch an hour. And this snow is the heavy, wet, sticky kind. We had rain before this yesterday, and because of that, it almost acts like a glue where this snow is sticking to it, and it's likely going to lead to a lot of power outages. Again, the snow, heavy, wet stuff up here in New York, and it's going to add up to 1 to 2 feet by the time it's all said and done. I'm Craig Adams in western Schenectady County, New York.
Well, we're 5 to 10 days away from spring, and most of the state is expecting 5 to 10 inches of snow here in Maine. But we're in Sanford, where it's already picking up, and they're expecting the jackpot here. You can see the roads getting slick and slippery. Now, under the layer of snow is slush and ice. I mean, you can already pick it up here and just see how wet and heavy it's getting. The Maine DOT, the Department of Transportation, has been telling me that they are fully staffed for a storm like this, but with the longevity of this, right? The forecast, it says it's going to come in, do a little loop-de-loop, and come back down. The snow really carrying through Tuesday evening, even lingering into Wednesday morning.
It's raining here right now in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, but local energy crews are bringing in extra crews and trucks to prepare for tree damage and downed wires as this rain and wind starts to turn into snow later today. We'll show you what the roads are looking like right here. Extra crews are on standby to help with any problems caused by the weather. Rhode Island Energy has out-of-state crews to assist, but they're asking people to be patient if they start to lose power.
So where it's safe to do so, we will do restoration, but at the same time, where winds are above 35 miles per hour, we can't have our men and women up in the buckets trying to do restoration.
Many schools in southern New England will have early dismissals today as well. Reporting in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, I'm Allegra Zaymore for the National Weather Desk.
And this is now a shot from Syracuse, where a plane skidded off a taxiway a little after 7:30 this morning. An airport spokesperson says it was a Delta flight headed to LaGuardia in New York City. The airport remained open, although about 30% of the departures have already been canceled, probably due to weather. Now, heading to the west, California is expecting more rain and snow this week, and parts of the region are under a flood watch once again all the way through Wednesday, and northern portions of the state are under a winter storm warning. Mountain communities are expected to see the most severe impacts because snow at higher elevations could melt soon after it falls, and then the rain mixed with the current snowpack could bring major flooding to large portions of the region. Nicole Comstock has more on how residents are preparing for worst-case scenarios.
Snowmelt is already surging into storm drains here in Running Springs and racing through Dry Creek. San Bernardino County is putting in extra work to move this snow in anticipation of flooding that's expected if rivers, creeks, and streams rise out of their banks. And low-lying communities already impacted by the recent blizzard get hit with a wall of water moving downstream.
Well, this time as a matter of fact, I'm going to go in and buy a couple more items of food, some milk and things just to get ready.
James Johnson is making sure he has enough essentials to weather this storm. He was snowed in for 9 days during the blizzard and eventually ran out of food. This time around, he's worried about avalanches and road washouts. The county fire department is pre-positioning extra engine crews so they can rapidly respond to any flooding emergencies.
Now, 2 states over, some Utah residents are starting to see the effects that have California communities on edge. Warmer temperatures starting to melt the snow and rain in the forecast, even in mountain communities. Lincoln Graves is in Summit County, east of Salt Lake City, where there's already some minor flooding.
Like other Mountain Valley communities, Midway has been hit hard this winter.
I think this is the very worst winter that I've experienced. My husband, who's a native, also says the same thing.
The snow is piled high on Connie Tatton Street, and as some melting has started to occur, she's seeing problems.
As you can see, we've got a fairly narrow ditch channel, but so much water that it's over on the lawn, and it goes over our driveway.
The ditch under the driveway is clogged, and more melting is likely this week as a storm system drops rain onto snow.
This is the time especially for preparedness.
Glenn Merrill is a hydrologist with the National Weather Service. He's warning about the potential for flooding. Even if it's not widespread, localized or so-called nuisance flooding can be destructive.
It's basement flooding. It's pooling in the lowest lying area possible. And hopefully there isn't a home there.
Other mountain towns like Park City are also preparing. A similar warm storm system dropped rain last week, but city emergency manager Mike McComb said the snowpack was able to absorb it.
So with the second storm coming in, it will be interesting to see what this one does.
In Nevada, a near disaster in Douglas County over the weekend, a reservoir almost spilled over and could have sent water rushing toward a rural neighborhood. Ben Margott has a story south of Reno at the Dengberg Reservoir, which just about reached its breaking point.
This reservoir isn't supposed to have much water in it at all this time of year, but the heavy rainfall over the weekend filled it up quickly and overwhelmed the system, which could have sent water over the levee on the other side of this body of water. We spoke to one man who lives just on the other side of that levee.
Yeah, we just watched it coming up, and finally it stopped raining, and we got pretty lucky. Probably another 12 inches and it would have gone over the dam for sure.
A county official tells us the system that allows water out of the reservoir just couldn't keep up. Sunday, the county issued a precautionary evacuation warning for the 50 or so homes that are just below the reservoir. Monday, we saw crews working to clear one of the channels of debris so more water could flow out. They also brought in a pump and will leave it here for this next storm. Those efforts helped. The water level dropped down by a few feet, but with more rainfall in the forecast, we're told they are not out of the woods yet.
And water-related disasters, both severe floods and long droughts, have intensified over the last 2 decades due to climate change. That's according to a new study from NASA scientists. It found higher global temperatures were more to blame than naturally changing weather patterns for increasingly frequent droughts and floods. The study was published Monday in the journal Nature Water. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, Christmas has been over for a long time, but we'll take a look at how one town is using its Christmas trees to protect their beaches. And ever wonder how those amazing photos of outer space get taken? Well, we're going to talk with an expert to find out. And now time for a quick break, but as we go, let's take a look at the skies right now in the mountains of Bowman, California.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a storm moving through the Northeast today. There's a center of low pressure. Some rain and snow is expected throughout the afternoon, and most areas of the Northeast will get some accumulating snow out of this. And the wind is going to become an issue, with winds gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour. I think there will be some power outages, especially where we get the pasty wet snow. 7 a.m. on Wednesday, that storm system is pulling away. Snowfall amounts actually look quite impressive through southern Vermont and southern New Hampshire, where snowfall totals could approach 2 feet.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Chilly to start. Lots of temperatures in the 30s, higher elevation 20s. Now, as we work to about lunchtime, 30s in Baltimore, 40s as you head down the I-95 corridor. And then into the afternoon, high temperatures generally in the 40s to right around 50 degrees. But those blustery winds going to make it feel colder than that as rain and snow stays to our north and east with our latest weather maker, a blustery day. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looking at upper 40s in Nashville, Birmingham about 54 degrees, Pensacola 63, Jacksonville 67, and we're looking at mid-upper 70s across parts of South Florida. Looks like that cold front has done its job taking those temperatures down, but we're nice and clear across the southeast. We'll see plenty of sunshine until our next weather maker starts moving in for later in the week. Down in parts of Louisiana, a few spotty showers, but it looks like we're seeing mainly dry conditions for the next couple of days.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
Now, we've talked a lot this morning about the nor'easter currently hitting the Northeast and New England. But what is a nor'easter and how do they form? Meteorologist Violet Skyber explains.
Did you know that there are different types of nor'easters? There are two main types, and they're classified into two categories, Miller A and Miller B, named after the researcher Miller, who invented this classification system all the way back in the year 1946. So starting with the first type, Miller A, typically develops in the Gulf of Mexico or along the southeastern coast along an old front, so a stationary front, and it usually travels up the east coast. It intensifies rapidly as it moves up the coastline towards the New England area, and the mid-Atlantic and New England states usually are hit the hardest because of this, right over the northeastern United States. Icy conditions can occur as far south as Georgia and the Carolinas, that pink shading you can see on your screen there. And even severe weather is possible in the Florida area. So pretty impressive when we get this exact type of setup. Now let's look at the second type, Miller B. This is when we have a system that moves in from the Midwest, the middle of the country. And it originates as an area of low pressure, moving eastward in between two areas of high pressure, one over the Great Lakes and one over the southeastern United States. And as it gradually moves east, it weakens as it hits the mountains. Keep in mind the Appalachian Mountains go right through here, and as it moves over, it's going to weaken, but then redevelop as a new area of low pressure on the other side of the Appalachians, right along the East Coast. Then it takes a turn. So the warmer Gulf Stream water helps it intensify and turn northward, heading up towards the New England coastline. And as it does, we'll see heavy snow for the New England and mid-Atlantic states, even some icy conditions right along the edge. Again, that pink shading there.
Well, the nor'easter is currently hitting Maine, where the beaches have already taken a hit from the weather, but Christmas trees are now being used to shore up damaged beach dunes. They were brought in on a sunny day late last week, just in time for the current storm. Joanne Maffei has the story from South Portland, Maine.
It's a beautiful March day at Willard Beach, but it smells a little different because they brought the Christmas trees in to rebuild the dunes.
So basically they're going to line them up, make a barricade that when the wind blows sand over them, it catches the sand. That's how dunes naturally form, is from driftwood or something catching sand. And then eventually all that sand will build up and help restore the dunes.
The permit for this project got approved Thursday by the Maine DEP. South Portland collects Christmas trees from residents after the holiday anyways, so they already had the material. These dunes, along with Fort Preble, got wrecked by the historic storm just before Christmas. Whirler Beach regulars say they like the unique idea and hope the trees don't blow away before the dunes form. The city spokeswoman says this concept has worked in other parts of the country.
This project here represents a lot of research, a lot of creative thinking, and we're really excited to be a pilot project for the state of Maine and looking forward to rebuilding the dunes economically and using recycled natural material.
Beachgoers will notice the Christmas trees this summer, as it is expected to take a while for the wind to cover them with sand.
And in West Virginia, the spring weather has people less excited about beaches and more excited about deer hunting season. But buck gun season is 8 months away, and for some hunters, that may be just a little too long. But there's a way to quench that buck fever before then. Brandon Stover has more about an outdoor activity that's growing in popularity.
I found them right here before, Greg, on this road right here.
It's a hunt where you don't even need a bow or gun. You just have to know where to look.
They love these greenbrier thickets this time of year. Rhododendron thickets, pine thickets, anything to keep the weather off of them.
Duty Cook, a coal miner from Wyoming County, loves the outdoors. Bow hunting is his main love, but searching for deer sheds is starting to catch up.
I found one, and then I got to reading about it, and I started beating the woods down.
About this time each year, bucks shed their old antlers and begin to grow new ones, which can grow remarkably fast.
Especially when they're like this right here. They're big round as pop cans. Usually by mid-March, they're all on the ground.
It's probably about 150 to 60, but it's my biggest find to this day.
You have to have patience because you're not just going to walk in the woods and find them.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work for it.
The best way to learn? Trial and error. Persistence has allowed them to know where to find these sheds come March.
And this is all the same deer?
Yeah, all the same deer right here, yep.
This is 2019. That's 2020. Wow. And this is 2017.
This is a perfect place to find them. When I'm on day shift, I'm in the woods about every evening.
Now, you've probably seen some amazing images of space showing galaxies, far-off planets, but do you ever wonder how those photos are actually taken? We found photographer Julio Encarnacion on Instagram, and we're blown away by his picture gallery. Emily Gracie sat down with him and found out what got him into astrophotography and how he captures these amazing photographs.
So originally I'm from St. Croix, and I started back in August of 2020 when my grandmother said she knew I was getting into photography and stuff like that. And she said, hey, there's a comet called Neowise. And I said, all right. And I lived in a very dark sky zone. So it was like Bortle 3.1. And I just started just snapping at the sky until I found this comet. And then once I found it, I mean, it was a 14 millimeter Rokinon. So very small lens, but it was fast. So I was able to capture a lot in a short period of time.
You say 2020, that's really not that long ago. So it's amazing how much this has taken off and how much it seems like you've learned in that time as well. For somebody who doesn't have, that PhD in astronomy, it seems like you know an awful lot.
I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a lot of equipment and test out equipment. It's a lot of testing and finding out what works best. This is a monochrome camera. I never knew about monochrome imaging. I started with something like this. It's a color camera, so you don't have to have the filters, but something like this is the same model, and this would image a lot clearer than the color camera because you're shooting separate signals. So it's a lot of stuff that I've learned just trial and error.
What do you enjoy taking pictures of the most?
I just started getting interested in dark nebulae. So these nebulae are basically just dark matter, and there's no kind of oxygen or hydrogen alpha or sulfur in them. So you have to image for longer periods of time. So you have to collect at least 20 hours of data to even see any kind of detail.
To see more of Julio's stunning photographs, head over to YouTube. We've posted links along with the full version of this interview. Just search the National Weather Desk. And speaking of space, 4 astronauts are back on the ground after spending 5 months on the International Space Station. The crew splashed down in a SpaceX Dragon capsule in the Gulf of Mexico late Saturday night. They spent 157 days in space. While on board that station, they conducted experiments and technology demonstrations to prepare for future deep space exploration. The mission had a historic first. Astronaut Nicole Mann was the first Native American woman to reach space. We'll be right back.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. Pretty quiet weather for us here in the Midwest for the day today. Got a little bit of lake effect snow out over the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley, but for the most part, most of the Midwest is pretty dry for the day today. Same for the day tomorrow, but we're starting to get a few snow showers to sneak into the northern Dakotas there for your Wednesday. Heading into Thursday, we're ramping up the snow and rain as it heads into the Central Plains, and that continues off towards the Ohio Valley for Friday.
Good Tuesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Our forecast today across the region, and we are starting off with a little bit of patchy cloudiness across Texas into Oklahoma, and a little rain mixed with a little sleet or snow in some cases in Oklahoma, parts of North Texas. Otherwise, the afternoon, a few sprinkles or showers near Little Rock, down through Austin to San Antonio, a lot of clouds and cool temperatures. We head into Wednesday's forecast, and it's going to be increasingly warmer and a little bit more humid. Highs will be in the 60s and 70s across the region.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. We've got the cooler temperatures across the Pacific Northwest, and it's pushing in with another large storm system that's slamming in with a jet stream to California. This is going to be bringing in excessive rainfall and a lot of mountain snow. First, the strong winds, and then we'll be bringing in the flooding behind this front as we get into the night tonight. That is the scene from here.
Presented by the National Weather Desk.
The dogwoods bloom in Charleston, South Carolina, but sunny days and cold nights are nigh. Some areas even expecting frost tonight, but it'll warm to the 60s by Wednesday. Meanwhile, a view from a snowmobile in Vermont. Meteorologist Ryan Munn of Maine says all the mountain trees were coated in hoarfrost. Hoary, an Old English word that describes the hairy, gray, or white appearance of such ice crystals.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Well, spring is on the way, and for some of us, daffodils, they're already blooming. Let's go to Seattle, where Theron Zahn has some fun facts about these flowers.
Here are 3 things you probably didn't know about daffodils. Did you know they were brought to Britain by the Romans many eons ago? And they're used to celebrate 10th anniversaries. So if you know someone having a 10th anniversary, give them daffodils. Also, a successful daffodil field can bloom for up to 50 years, so they're very hardy year after year.
We'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a look at how crops in California are being impacted by the cold weather. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.